Hello, Peter Galante here, and I'm making a video specifically for the online section of Photo 130. I've had some questions today as to how this is going to go. So you all have been received a rubric which attempts to give you some way to quantify what is really subjective judgments. It's only to be used as a guide. There isn't a right or wrong answer. So I've divided you up into groups. Group 1 critiques Group 2. Group 2 critiques Group 1. Group 3 critiques Group 4. And Group 4 critiques Group 3. And what happens is that you need to communicate as a group and use that rubric to look at both of the pictures that the student has submitted, and you evaluate them holistically as one assignment. All right, so it's not easy, and that's one of the reasons we have difficulty in evaluating things like art. So here I am. I'm at the Stout Wyden website, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do here. I'm coming up here to the more searches. I'm clicking on advanced search, and it's giving me this choice to select the asset group. In the future, you're going to, because we'll have more assignments in there, you're going to want to select the assignment name and the student name that you're evaluating. Right now, you could add the student name and it'll bring up the student name, well, the student's work also. But for the time being, I'm only selecting our asset group, and it's going to bring up some images. We have here 4 photographs that have been submitted by Mariah Donarski, right? 2 are PSDs and 2 are her raw files. So in critiquing this, I need to look at these, and I'm gonna click on the name and bring it up. And one of the first things I'm going to check is the image size. Now this is wrong. It was supposed to be essentially 9 by 6 inches at 300 dpi. So when you're evaluating it, you need to look and see if they checked these kind of dimensions, and that comes under technique. Here the assignment name is photo blur. Well, it's important you use the correct assignment names, because this is searchable metadata. The assignment name is motion blur. So you can't be changing the names. You need to use the names that we have. The first assignment is motion blur. The second assignment is depth of field, and we're going to go on from there. It's very important you don't change that. When I come up to the metadata in the EXIF panel, I can see her aperture is f4, which is not relevant in the motion blur, but it is relevant in the depth of field assignment. I can see the exposure mode is in manual, which it needs to be. And then I can see her shutter speed, which was 1/4 of a second. Interesting that it says shutter speed, because the other day it was coming up as, I don't know, exposure time. I see, exposure time. So you can either look at exposure time or shutter speed. They're the same. So 1/4 of a second, or actually that's not 1/4 of a second, that's almost 1/2 of a second. That makes sense for the blur of the top. So you can evaluate that and go, is it a good example of motion blur? Did she use the right technical details? You know, and then you have to make some judgments that are about the visual appeal. Ultimately, we're going to talk a little bit more in a subsequent video about the principles of design. So we can go back out of here. I can go back. I'm not sure how we get back at, oh, here it is, return. I go back to return. I can look at her other version here. Here's her second Photoshop picture. It is also not sized correctly. The name is not correct. We can look at the data, same aperture, same shutter speed, and it's also on manual. So you can evaluate, okay, how effective a use of motion blur, and The other criteria we have to apply subjectively. Now, what I want you to do is to communicate as a group, and as a group, you submit a copy of that form. You can either print it or you can edit it and send it back to me and with the comments on it, and I'm going to share it with the student. Now, when I select this, right, it comes up, and I should be able to actually, this is not really the best way. Here it is, comments, right? We create a public comment, and you're going to add your comments, a summary of your comments in the comment file up here. Plus, you're going to put it on the form and add up the points and submit that back to me, and I will share it back with the student. Okay, I hope this makes some sense, and if you have questions, specific questions, please email me. I'm gonna make another couple of videos that we're gonna express the principles of design and the next 2 assignments. Have a good weekend. Ciao.